Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have breaking news coming out of Moscow. We're learning of a potential assassination plot by the Russian FSB to assassinate the intelligence chief of Ukraine, Budanov, and we're also hearing the FSB director start accusing the West of actually orchestrating that terrorist attack on Crocus Hall, and we're also learning that NATO is considering letting Poland change the rules of engagement on Russian missiles to strike them before they even enter Polish airspace in the future. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into our first piece of news for the day, which goes to OSINT Defender. And we can see in this post, the director of the Russian Federal Security Service, also known as the FSB, Alexander Bortnikov, has made some extremely bold claims today about Friday's terrorist attack in Moscow, while also expressing a very dangerous rhetoric. This includes him stating that the attack was conducted by ISIS, but using radical Islamists, and they were facilitated by the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, as well as the United States and the UK, with him further stating that the attack will require retaliatory action against Ukraine, which may include the possible assassination of Ukrainian spy chief Kirillo Budanov and other high-ranking intelligence leadership. So obviously this is a very big statement indeed, and it is a departure here from what we were hearing from Putin. It appears that the FSB director is going to start putting something else into motion, which he believes assassinating the top Ukrainian leadership is going to be a sufficient retaliation. So at the moment, we don't have much more details on the actual assassination plot itself, but apparently one may be in motion, and security precautions are being taken inside of Ukraine to secure Budanov and the top leadership to make sure that the Russians can't get access to them. But of course, even with the top leadership being locked down by Ukraine and secured, there's always the risk that the Russians could somehow find a way in and actually assassinate Budanov or other top leadership. So this is an ongoing story that we're watching very closely. But with that, we're moving on to our next post here, and we're getting some more news, and this is from FiTux News. A reporter asked the FSB director today, why is Budanov still alive? And what a question that is from a reporter. That's a real unbiased reporter indeed. And the director said in response that everything is ahead. So he confirmed that there is an assassination plot in effect at the moment to take out Budanov. And of course, there has been an assassination plot since the very beginning of the war to take out top leadership, but it seems like now there's a more concerted effort to get that done. But with that, we're moving on to our next post here, which goes to Nexta as well, and we're starting to see that the Belarusian president Lukashenko has ruined everything as usual. According to Nexta, it says the dictator of Belarus has introduced more confusion into the Kremlin's already confused version of the terrorist escape, and quote-unquote, as soon as there was information from the security services that the car with terrorists was moving in the direction of Bryansk, it was agreed that Belarus would block its part of the direction of the likely movement of criminals and the Russian side, its own. They saw that, and that's why they turned away and went to the section of the Ukrainian-Russian border. So thus, Lukashenko questioned the Kremlin's unlikely version that the terrorists were moving to a pre-opened window on the border with Ukraine. But in this quote from Lukashenko, we can see that he is indeed starting to contradict that story because they can't keep their lies straight, and he's starting to mess up the entire narrative that Putin was trying to push. But with that, we are going on to our next article here, which goes to the Kyiv Post, and we are learning today that Poland's Deputy Foreign Minister Andrzej Szczesna said that NATO is considering changing its rules of engagement when Russian missiles are poised to violate Polish airspace, including shooting them down outside of the NATO border, reported the Polish RMF. So obviously, it goes without saying this is a big departure from the typical policy that NATO has when it comes to shooting down Russian missiles. At the moment, the policy by NATO is those missiles will not be shot down unless they pose a risk to civilians inside of Poland. And if the missile simply skirts by the border towns or over the airspace of Poland right on the edge of the border, they're typically let go and they're not shot down. But now it seems that Poland is making a very concerted push to actually get to shoot those missiles down before they even enter Polish airspace. So that means shooting down missiles while they're still in Ukraine, which could lead to an escalation with the Russians and between Poland. So I'm personally in favor of this proposal, but let me know down in the comments below what you think of it. But with that, moving on to our next article here, we have one from Nexta as well, and we're learning of the situations in which French soldiers could be used inside of Ukraine right here in this post. It says France could clash directly with Russia if the Ukrainian front collapses, according to the LCI TV channel that has published a number of possible scenarios for sending French soldiers to Ukraine, with the first scenario being the construction of military factories in Ukraine under the supervision of French engineers. The second possibility is the French military carries out the mining and training of the AFU itself. The third possibility is defense of Odessa, where the French may be involved in installing an air defense system, which already means direct participation in the conflict as an ally of Ukraine. And the fourth possibility being the creation of a defense zone, where the military will take over some of the tasks of the Ukrainian army. And the fifth possibility being direct participation in hostilities against Russian troops on the side of Ukraine, which could lead to World War III. And the journalists emphasize scenarios 4 through 5 can only be considered if the Ukrainian front collapses, and this would be World War III indeed. But with that, we're moving on to our next article here, which goes to Visegrad 24, and we're seeing that the Ukrainian army has hit the 122-meter-long Russian Rapucha-class landing ship Konstantin with a Neptune R-360 anti-ship missile, and Visegrad 24 says, will it sink? And I guess only time will tell if it actually does sink, but it has been hit with a very big anti-ship missile, and as you can see here, here is a picture of the vessel itself. We don't have a picture of the damage as of yet, but yet another landing ship that Ukraine has hit with a major missile, and another ship that Russia cannot use in their war against Ukraine. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next post here, which goes to the Euromaidan Press, and we can see that Ukraine has destroyed or disabled a third of Russia's Black Sea warships, according to the Ukrainian Navy. And at the quote-unquote here it says, our ultimate goal is the complete absence of military ships of the so-called Russian Federation in the Azov and Black Sea regions. And you know what's most wild to me about this entire story is Ukraine really doesn't have a navy. Their navy consists of small vessels and also mainly those drone boats, which they've recently developed, like the Sea Baby, and that's the way they're taking out the entire Russian navy, and up to this point, a whole third of it. So that is a testament indeed that you don't necessarily need to have the largest military, but if you have the most cunning people that are able to figure out ways to take your navy down, that's all that's really needed to win the fight. But with that, moving on to our next article here, we have one from the Kyiv Independent, and we see that according to the SBU head of Ukraine, Russia is no longer using the Crimean Bridge for weapon supplies after repeated strikes. And this is a big change because before, the Russians were using the Crimean Bridge almost exclusively to get weapons from Russia into Crimea to fight the war. And now we're seeing they have found an alternative route, and I'm not really entirely sure what route they're using now to get those weapons into Crimea. But nonetheless, I hope Ukraine does take the bridge out because it is a symbolic piece for Russia, and if it was actually hit and destroyed permanently, that would be a big propaganda blow to Russia. And it would also put a halt to vacationers illegally going and vacationing in Crimea from Russia on land that they don't actually own. So, with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next post here, which goes to Max23 on Twitter. And we can see Russia has started direct oil deliveries to Kim Jong-un's regime in defiance of UN sanctions, according to FT. And at least 5 North Korean tankers left this month with oil products from the port of Vostochny in the Russian Far East. So, once again, North Korea and Russia have this newfound relationship where they're trading goods at quite a big volume. And in my opinion, I still think North Korea is a proxy of China. That's basically China's middleman to get goods from their country into Russia without having to directly ship stuff directly to Russia, and they do it through North Korea. But of course, that is just a hunch, but you can let me know also down in the comments below what you think about that one. And moving on to our next article here, we have another one from Max23 on Twitter, and it says, Congress approved $300 million to arm Ukraine last week, but there's just one problem. The money is already gone, according to Politico, and the cash was included in a $1.2 trillion government funding package, but the money was actually obligated already in November. So if I'm understanding this correctly, apparently we went into a debt as the United States to actually purchase weapons, and we had to immediately put that $300 million toward paying down a debt. If I understand that correctly. So the $300 million that was just passed to arm Ukraine actually did not bring any new weapons in. It simply paid down a debt that we already had, and it actually did not help Ukraine in the immediate future. So we need to pass more aid for Ukraine because that is simply starting to pay down debts, and right now we need to actively get weapons to Ukraine to be able to ward off the Russians. So with that, we're moving on to our next article here, which goes to the Euromaidan Press once again, and we're learning the restoration of Ukraine's Dnipro hydropower plant will take years following the Russian missile attack. And it also says the machine hull was destroyed, and while some equipment should be manufactured from scratch, it is still expected to take at least 2 years. So it is unfortunate that the hydroelectric plant was hit, but good news is they have reopened the top of the bridge, the causeway, to traffic. So it's not impeding the flow of traffic from one side of the dam to the other, but there is a lot of work to do to actually repair that machine hull that was directly hit by that missile and to actually get the dam back into full operational capacity. So with that, we're moving on to our last article of the day, which goes to Fightux News, and we're learning the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Alexei Danilov, has been dismissed according to a presidential decree from Zelensky's office. And on this one, your guess is as good as mine as to why this actually occurred. And Ukraine's really not in the habit of letting people know exactly why people were dismissed. They sort of keep that private. He was in that position for a while, so he's now been dismissed without any public reason, so that's sort of leaving us all to speculation as to why he was dismissed. But with that is actually our last post of the day. So if you found this video informative, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel as well to help us greater get the news out there and to also get regular updates about the war in Ukraine. Also, if you want to support us financially, we do have a Patreon page, and you can go sign up over there using the link in the description below to support our operation financially, and we greatly appreciate it indeed. And also be sure to join us tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our nightly war news stream, where we'll cover all the rest of the events that take place during the day right then and there. So with that, thank you all for watching, and bye-bye for now.